your body's telling me that you're not going to win another world title unless you change a couple of things. And I'm like, okay. And he used to say, if you're not, you're going to get a tap first, then you're going to get a whack. If you ignore the tap, you'll get a whack. If you ignore the whack, then a Mack truck will hit you.
Yeah.
That's probably when I first was becoming aware without knowing it that I think I've developed quite a strong ego here, because I was thinking, who the hell does this guy think he is?
Hey guys, this week I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with 6-time Ironman champion Trevor Hendy, Sporting Hall of Fame, Order of Australia, dad of 4, grandfather of 2. What an amazing guy. We had a chat from the highest of the highs when Trevor was the best of the best in his sport to the lowest of the lows. Married twice, divorced once, bankrupt, and back to the highs now. And we had a good conversation about all things wealth, ego, spirit, you name it, success, failure, and how to make sure in life you continue to move forward and get the most out of life, being present, living in the now. Enjoy this conversation with Trevor Hendy. Trevor Hendy, welcome to the podcast, mate. The Wealth Faculty. Yeah, great to have you invite us into your home. I really appreciate you letting us in, mate.
No problems. Here in my board shorts, relaxed, casual on my balcony.
Mate, just living the dream.
Just over there.
Mate, quickly to start off, you just became a grandfather.
Yes.
How's that going for you?
Well, amazing, because also they're all in this house. So
I know. You were saying 11 people here?
And yeah, it's pretty crazy and beautiful and incredible to have everyone here together. So twin grandsons, Hugo and Austin, from Chrissy and Sam, and they're 5.5 months now. And just amazing. Getting to spend a lot of time with them, and I'm not sure if I'm Papa or Pa yet.
You haven't got your nickname yet.
But we'll just see what they say.
And family, obviously, right now is central to your life. Everyone living under one roof. Is that really important? Is that like
Absolutely.
A core foundation value for you?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's the core around being really true to yourself, and that connection piece. And family to me is obviously. It's part of who you are. It makes up all the things that you feel inside of yourself. All of your conditioning comes from family, but all of your motivation and love comes from them as well. So I don't know. It's just where all the best lessons lie, and the toughest lessons sometimes, relationship and family.
Yeah.
But it's just the most beautiful thing when it all comes together. It's come together now more than ever.
Yeah.
The last. Sort of 2 years, just progressively it's got better, but it's just like we're all together and we're all one big family, which is really cool.
The journey of life. So I certainly can relate on that level. I have plenty of my family with me, and over the last 10 years, enjoying.
You got 3 generations in your place.
Yes, I do. And it's amazing. I would have said many years ago, never would I have my parents living with me.
Yeah.
Like not a chance on the earth.
And
then, when kids came along for me, it's been the best thing that I've ever experienced, having them close, having Nana or Pop really close to have the kids enjoy that time. I think it's, amazingly special. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, mate. So we'll have a bit of chat about those things, probably by the sounds of things, that family being a core value probably took time to sort of grow and mature over life, as things do, long-term things. But 6-time life-saving champion, Order of Australia, Australian Sporting Hall of Fame. Now maybe in a new era of your life. What are you up to these days? Instead of winning, being a champion, what is it that you do now? We were just having a quick chat.
Yeah, it's interesting, because before competition and racing, I was the kid that loved nature and connecting and could just sit on the sand and play with the sand and the water, and love friends and family and travel and adventure, and grew up with a father and mother that took us everywhere. And, so I was that earthy, connected to country kid. I even grew up traveling around Australia from 3 to 5, and spent a lot of time, multiple years after that in the Northern Territory, and really connecting to country in the Indigenous communities, and spending time just really grounded, earthy things. So it's funny that then I became the competitor, and a little bit, and we might get into it a bit later, but a little bit from feeling a bit bullied and belittled, and everyone's getting the goodies in life, and the winner gets the goodies, and the winner gets the girl, he gets the last laugh, he gets the, you know, the say on where we go, gets the respect, never gets left behind, you know. So it was a little subliminal, subconscious thing growing in my mind about who seems to get all the privileges. And I established this almost this persona of being the Ironman, because that would give me what I wanted, because if I win, you know, then I get everything. At that stage, I'd never won anything. I was rated nowhere.
Where did that come up with? Did Ironman, was that part of like, I want to be an Ironman, or it was something that came through organically? I might have a go at this.
And I've got to remember to answer the original question too. But basically, 15 to 16, I was in Surf Life Saving in Nippers since I was 8 years old, and in the surf club, and loved it and connected. But then feeling the hierarchy in the surf club, like the alpha male aspect of the surf club, which is in every place you go, particularly for a young man. And
I'd love to talk about that a bit later on.
We'll cut into that. But basically, my dad came to me one day and said, look, Trev, you can go on being good at every sport you do, or you can pick one and be the best at it.
Got you.
Now that's really interesting, because 2 days ago I had a major realization about that. But I literally went, okay, so I whittled down to the different sports I was playing, and I whittled down to tennis and Ironman racing, you know, and Surf Life Saving. And tennis, I was in the Ken Rosewell Tennis Academy and stuff like that, and I had some talent there, and you know, I was obviously going to be taller later and all that sort of stuff, and I loved tennis. I really loved it. And everybody said, well, you know, I was asking different people, and they'd say, well, tennis is all the money's in tennis. And every time someone said all the money's in tennis, I felt more inclined deep down to go, yeah, but I love life saving, you know, I love the ocean. So ultimately, I chose Ironman, and I decided, well, I want to be the best at that, you know. And I decided to perfect the race, be world champion, win more than anybody else. So this passion, this thing that my dad said, this passion for the water, and this feeling of feeling small in the world and lacking, meant that I'd established a bit of spirit, a bit of heart, a bit of connection to a bit of insecurity and fear, and created a new persona that was connected to spirit as well, you know. So I was both flying with this journey, and at the same time separating myself further from something that was really important to me, which is the real intrinsic connection with things. So it came about through that. And then ultimately what happened was, to answer the first question, was that the wheels fell off the car. You know, I started shoulder injury, or shoulder tendonitis in both shoulders, hip collapsing, arch in my foot collapsing, constant on antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, icing, TENS machines, best
your
doctors,
body's
physios.
at the limit, right?
I'm at the limit, and it was like a badge of honour, you know, that Ironmen get sick all the time, because we train more than anybody else, and we're mixing between all these disciplines. And I met a crazy, beautiful chiropractor, 6'6", Keith Maitland, nut, you know, holistic healer, who was so outside of that realm that when I met him, and he looked at my whole body and said to me, you know, your body's telling me that you're not going to win another world title unless you change a couple of things. And I'm like, okay, thinking, who the hell does this guy think he is? And that's probably when I first was becoming aware, without knowing it, that I think I've developed quite a strong ego here, because I was thinking, who the hell does this guy think he is? And then as I'm thinking,
doesn't he know who I am?
Doesn't he know who I am? I've won 3 world titles. The 4th world title's just a matter, you know. That's in the back of my mind somewhere. And we'll touch on Eckhart Tolle soon. But literally, he then said to me, so I'm already fuming underneath, and then said to me 2 main things. One is, I think you might be intolerant to something. I'm guessing dairy intolerant. I'm like, don't take ice cream and chocolate away from me. Like, I didn't say it, but I'm thinking it. That's all that's keeping me alive at the moment. You know, it's my only comfort and satisfaction. And I got to the point, 3 times world champion, you know, God, met Michael Jackson, been on Baywatch, done all this sort of stuff. And it's this crazy, like, living the life, but actually couldn't wait to escape. You know, what have I created for myself? So what happened was, he then goes, and the other thing is, I think you got some emotional issues. I think you got some anger. You know, some anger issues. And I'm like looking at him thinking, who does this guy think he is? You know, like just really fuming on the inside. And as I'm fuming, I'm smiling like this. And I'm realizing, I go, oh, mental note to self, I do appear to be really angry at what he's saying. And I'm like, that's really curious, you know. And he said, so if you want to come back tomorrow, bring some food samples in, we'll test you for those, and
do that.
We'll have a conversation, blah, blah, blah. And, and he said to me, think it's like a father figure that you're angry, but I'm not picking up your dad. Have you got like a second dad or someone's like a father figure? So this is like highly intuitive, like reading signals. I'm like, oh, my uncle, but who died recently, and he said, yeah, it's your uncle. That's who it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not mad with my uncle. I'm sad. He was like my second dad. He lived with us and everything else, and I'm really sad. And he goes, yeah, you're sad, but behind that, you're also angry at something, and you need to go home and write a letter to him, and who's this quack and what's he talking about and everything else. I've never been exposed to anything beyond body mind.
Yes.
So and a beautiful family and connected family and everything else. So we just loved and looked after each other, and so when we're talking about values before, and we're saying family is an intrinsic value, I'm like, oh, it's funny that the values that grew beyond that are the ones that have helped sort family out, like truth, awareness, true connection, clarity, being in the moment, purpose, other values that I've kind of tapped into, true reality.
Yeah.
Then they straightened out all the kinks of family. So it's like, oh, the love of family is not what's helped me sort family out. It's the love of other things. So ultimately, that led to what do I do now, which is the first question.
Yes.
I can talk too much, but what I do is I after being through all those things, being to the best psychologists and all sorts of stuff, and then meeting these crazy people and having, Keith and then sent me on to other people and doing seminars and going, self-help seminars and going, what?
Yeah.
Coming out of that, releasing glandular fever in a weekend, which is medically impossible.
Yes.
Have the blood test to show it, like crazy experiences and going, wow. So then before I'd ever heard that Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Well, everything's vibration,
that is right.
So
yeah.
When I learnt these things, I realised, oh my goodness, the people in normal life weren't able to do that for me, and these crazy people were.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do for other people.
The crazy ones
so I
changed
kind of
the
went
world.
out of the mainstream.
Yeah.
For a long period of time.
A realization breakthrough for you at that point was like a real changing from this physical thing to something a bit more spiritual or connected to something, a higher purpose. Was
totally without going, hey, surround myself in
too
white light. Not at all. Really grounded people I met. No, go on results. How's your body going?
Yeah.
How's your relationship? How's your bank balance? How's your happiness? How's your health?
Yes.
No good? Well, let's work out what you're not facing.
Yeah.
So not, hey, sit in the corner and meditate and surround yourself in light and hope your day goes well and visualize yourself surrounded in abundance. It was like, face your shit, mate.
Face it. Yeah.
And so that's the type of people I met, which is the type of people I needed to meet.
Great practical spirituality almost. It's like,
it's like training. You train properly, you get a result. Well, you confront your own stuff and look at where you're the common denominator in a situation that's not going right. 3 relationships in a row, or 3 businesses in a row, or 3 deals in a row.
What's common here?
Why does the people are like this? It's like, who's common? Well, it seems to be eye keeping here.
Might be the similar theme.
And that's when I heard that, I was just like, oh. And the story was, you're with your wife for 10 years, honeymoon, then you just can't stand each other. And that's not my story, but this is a story I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And then, so she's a blonde, so you go for a brunette, and then 2 years later, same scenario, honeymoon, and then 2 years later, same scenario. And so we'll go for a redhead.
Yeah.
And we've got Google now, so check them out on Google and make sure their family all back. And then 3 months later, there's a shorter honeymoon, and it's like until you work out you're the one.
You're the one bringing.
It can't change until you shift yourself.
Yeah.
So
internal work rather than external work.
And that's what I do. In answering the first question and multiple ones.
Was a good answer.
That's what I do, and I do that because I'm still on the journey myself. I'm aware that we are full of crap at certain levels. We don't realise we are, but it's our stuff, our issues, our challenges, our blind spots, whatever you want to call it, our alter ego, our shadow side. You give it 100 different names, but ultimately you find out that there's something in here that is me. And that thing is loving, caring, connected, passionate, dynamic, flexible, humble, quick to apologise or forgive or whatever else. There's other things around here that are things where I want to win and control and be the one and get the goodies and all that sort of stuff. And the more I've broken that down, the more what I was trying to get's come to me really naturally.
Yeah.
And I've sat there eating humble pie at the same time going, oh my goodness.
Understanding what drove you.
Yeah.
And are you niching now in that sort of peak performance sports world with, you know, helping people find their way home. And it's something I just remember where you're sort of saying, like, as a kid, you know, I was always connected to nature and the outdoors, and I've got a very similar experience. Like, you know, I grew up in the country. And like, if I wasn't out in the bush, you know, I was feeling like, you know, I had to be somewhere, and, you know, moved to Sydney, you know, the big place, and really sort of said, well,
which is a jungle of its own.
A jungle of its own, very similar to you. Like, you know, I wanted to win in a certain space and place, which was, you know, my world of wealth and property. And, you know, we went for it in Sydney and did amazingly. And then, you know, at some point, feeling so far away from really who I was, you know, and it's like, is this it? What does my life actually mean? Because, you know, money and all of these successes are still a big hole there inside, you know.
And your feelings draw you back.
Yeah.
You know, like I talked about only knowing body, mind.
Yeah.
But then I won all my races from feeling, and the best ones from feeling, you know.
Yeah.
So it was there the whole time.
Yeah.
It was just covered over by this ego that would claim the victory at the finish of it.
Yeah.
My mind would always say, yeah, just did that. You know, but it was actually my ability to get out of my mind and be in the moment, which my coach, Bill Haylock, did put things in place for me at the time, which was so perfect, that kept us in the moment, you know. And I understood that years later and went back and said, thank you, mate.
Yeah.
You know, but feelings draw you back, you know, and I love feeling is healing, you know, and I work with people all the time now, and I say, first thing we have to do, mate, is we've got to feel it to heal it. And I sit with people and say, well, I'm going to stop you every now and then, say, stop, come back half a step, feel what you just said. You know, because as soon as you feel something, you embody the energy, and it can shift, it can transmute, it can alchemize inside of you. So as far as seeing the world as energetic, feeling allows you to actually process it, dissolve it, transmute it, you know. So if something's not changing, you go for feel it to heal it, see it to free it, you know. So once you've felt it, then you go, oh, I was thinking this, and so you see the thoughts and you see how it all connects, and then that opens up. So the feminine, the yin comes in of, oh, I feel the release, and the yang release comes in of, now I see how I created that or what I did. So, you know, we either do what you did, which is it feels a bit hollow and you go, I've got to reconnect, which is what I was doing as well, but my body was telling me, or similar, we have a breakdown because we've been suppressing feelings, but feelings always bring us back.
Breakdown or blow up?
Blow up, absolutely.
And so, you know, maybe just circling back a bit, just, you know, you said, you know, as a young boy and maybe into a young man, like you felt that maybe, and I'm paraphrasing here, maybe that masculine, maybe, you know, masculine was a real man does this, a real man wins, a real man gets it all, you know. 100%. And, you know, so, you know, maybe we can sort of chat about that for a little bit, because, you know, you've performed, you know, at world-class level, best in the world, in your sport, driven, you know, and I'm sure you're talking with many young sports stars, and, you know, and I'm assuming it's a lot of men working with women.
Equally.
Women,
but certainly in sport, a lot of men.
And you know, do you see this driven, almost dysfunctional masculinity sort of causing some issues there? And on the flip side, I've got two sons, and, you know, there's good, healthy masculine.
Absolutely,
And do you see sometimes, you know, in sporting world, you know, that can be, you know, dysmorphed, you know, into something not so great if it's not taken care of, like having great coaches in sport?
It's just popped in to grab something else out to put all this together. My father said you can take one thing and be the best at it.
Yes.
Right. And so the other day I was training, and I trained to the start of the Coolangatta Gold training when the COVID crisis began. I'm stuck on the Gold Coast, started training with the crew, and I went, oh, what a great way to get my health back at 52, to just go for it, you know. And so I trained. Ali Day is a 6 times Coolangatta Gold champion. He's in our Surfers Paradise Surf Club squad. My son TJ's was top 5 last year, you know, the same race. And so I started with, you know, Max, but the crazy people in our squad, Courtney Hancock. So I started training with them, and I got my health back over 11 weeks, and I kept working through, no, just forget about where they are. They're right up there. Just be with the crew and whoever you're with, and enjoy it. And get off the washers and just go. If you're going to keep up later, you need to do the distance now, not sit on someone's wash and get a bit of assistance. Anyway, long story short was 11 weeks into that training, the Coolangatta Gold was cancelled, you know. So there's another 9 weeks to go, I think, or something like that, 10, and it was cancelled. I wasn't going to do it anyway, but I wanted to train right up to it. And it took away a little bit of a goal thing, that whole goal thing.
Yeah.
But I'd also been through an organisational shift and change, and and I was a little burnt out at the same time, but that training was keeping me alive. And so for about 8 weeks now, I haven't done much. So I've gone back to training, and I noticed that I was keeping up at the end of the 11 weeks, a little bit.
Yeah.
And now I'm like struggling a little bit, and I could feel the part of me that was trying to keep up. And I had this thought come in, what's the use?
Yeah.
If you're not going to be up the front, what's the use? And I went, whoa, wow.
Where did that come from?
Where did that come from? Because I teach this,
Yes, yeah.
So I'm like, wow, isn't that crazy? So I kind of paused and I slowed down and I just closed my eyes a bit. I was swimming and I was closing my eyes swimming, and not to be recommended, but if you know where you're going. and I went, oh my God, it goes all the way back to my dad saying, if you can either go on being good at everything you do, or you can take one thing and be the best at it.
Yeah.
And so it goes to this man thing, right? That there's a double-edged sword on everything, or there's a shadow side and a positive side.
Yep.
Was that the positive side of that was I took a sport and became the best at it, redefined the way it was done,
Focused
moved it up,
energies.
shifted.
Yep.
People looked at it and went, wow, he did this way. That became the stepping stone for Kai Hurst and Shannon Eckstein and Ali Day and other people to take it further, right?
Yeah.
So, in that way, contributed as a man to take a sport further and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I was done with it, I left it and went and, all right, I'm on a spiritual journey now. I'll be the best at that. I don't know if you've ever tried to be the best at a spiritual journey.
There's a guy on YouTube who does those like
JP, Awakening with JP.
The most spiritual.
Ultra spiritual.
Ultra spiritual.
I went to 5 days with Eckhart Tolle and he played that for us.
That's so good.
He said, watch this, and just sat there giggling the whole time. That, and for anyone who's listening, you got to look up the comedian Arj Barker.
Yes.
And the sickest Buddhist. He does a rap to, I'm the sickest Buddhist, the power of now. I made the power of now look like the power of then, it's really cool. So I learned that you can't, I thought the human race was something to be won, because it said race, so win it.
Gotcha.
So that was
Isn't
that alter ego that I developed.
Yeah.
It gave me so much.
Yeah.
Opened so many doors.
Yeah.
I won so much. I got the girl. I got the title. I got
Yeah.
the prizes. I got, almost like a superannuation policy, because everywhere you go, people go, Trev, what can I do for you? It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So that idea that be the best at it, I've gone and I found myself as I got below that, I went, what's crazy about that? If I'm going to be the best at it, then I need to utilize everything to my advantage. So actually it drives the selfishness. So the other day when I pulled apart that and saw that, within 24 hours, like yesterday morning, this is just literally yesterday morning, I went, I can feel the part in me that manipulates, maneuvers, is persuasive, gets what I want.
Yeah.
And it all connects back together of being the best at something, because then it all pays off in the end because you feed your family. It's all justified.
Yeah.
But the energy inside of it, it's not like you can't have those things,
Yeah.
but the energy inside that it promotes
Yeah.
is very much cut you off to get what I want.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So,
oh my God, I'm
that-
still discovering this stuff.
That ego rising to the top, and you say like, it's, maybe harking back to, you're at the top of your game, the world was at your feet.
Yes.
Yeah,
and the world, isn't that interesting? The world was at your feet. So
Yeah.
why do we want something at our feet? But that's so true, right?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like being the king, being royalty, and everyone's at your
Yeah.
feet. What can I get you? And
Yeah.
it was like that.
Yeah.
Literally, I'd be like, oh, I want a new car. And I'd ring the manager and say, give me a car deal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it like that. I'd
Yeah.
actually say, hey, I was just thinking, because I was persuasive.
Yeah.
But underneath that, I was like, and hurry up. It's absolute arrogance. I love what Eckhart Tolle said when he said this. I was like, such a relief, because he said ego simply equals unconscious. But if you go, God, I'm a dick, I've got to stop doing that, it's hard to let go of something that you're hating in yourself.
Yes.
But when you go, how did I get there? What did I do? I didn't mean to do that. I didn't want to become an egotistical dick,
Yeah.
I actually stepped out to be more loved and more liked and more connected, and I felt I didn't feel good enough inside of myself. And the guy with the bigger chest and the better abs, who surfed better, who told better jokes, he got the girl. And my dad had the girl, and he was my king. He was my god.
Yeah.
My dad was a beautiful, amazing man, and my mum, amazing woman, my older sister, incredible. So that's my perfection, that was right there. So
were you aspiring to be like those guys?
I was aspiring to be like that.
Yeah.
And then I saw things that they didn't have. We didn't have
Uh-huh.
that much money, and we didn't have that much freedom, and next minute I got it, and I was like So now I'm better than my dad or
Yeah,
better
yeah.
than my family,
Yeah.
which is not true or real because they held the values that I needed to put my feet back on the
Yeah,
ground.
the foundation values.
But ultimately, that male thing, coming back to that question,
Yeah.
is all connected to unconsciousness.
Mm.
The sacred male
Yeah.
is actually, I care deeply about the whole planet.
Yeah.
And I care about what I do next, how it impacts the planet.
Yes.
And I really, my heart goes out to that sacred feminine. I'm very aware that several hundred years ago they burnt all the witches on the planet.
Yeah.
And that if any woman goes to take her power, she has to either take it via feminism and you have to stand in that, or be told to sit back down. But the actual sacred feminine is like a rare gem.
Yes.
And I'm aware that, oh my goodness, they cut off all the sight, they cut off the vision, the sight, the intuition, the women's intuition,
The connection
and they
to that.
put them under religion and they
Yeah.
put them under all this other stuff. And
Yeah.
so that sacred masculine in me, when I talk about it, it's that part of me that goes, I'm going to care for women, the feminine, children, sensitivity, the nature, all the things that aren't being looked after.
Yes.
And that's my later life. I still make mistakes and I still occasionally like, oh God, you're just a dick then.
Yeah.
But and it's like, oh, mental note to self, check that out later. Why were you saying that? And drawing attention to yourself. But during that period of time,
Yeah.
it was more like womanizing, wanting the female attention and lapping it up and all that sort of stuff. And it was, so that's how unconscious it was. It was the shadow of who I really am.
And do you think at that point in time, maybe we can sort of, talk about that moment where, okay, it's all over now, marriage is over, champion
Yes.
over,
Yep.
money over, Do you think that you were sort of, there was that hollow thing where you're running away from something chasing you, or you're trying to fill some hollow,
Yes.
and certainly for me, the GFC came home very similar.
Yeah. Bang, slap.
Bang, mate. I was at the top of my game. Plenty of money, plenty of success, and very built on inexperienced, shaky ground almost. Because life's a bit more rounded, right? If you're not succeeding with family and other things as well, maybe that success isn't that sustainable long term. But for you, it came off the rails. Was that sort of over a really short period of time, or was that kind of like a slow decline's probably not the right word, but a slow awakening of, hey, listen, maybe I've got some other stuff to learn. Instead of being the champion in the surf, maybe there's some other things in life I've got to be the champion at or be better at.
A few things. I love Eckhart Tolle's saying that our primary purpose is to know ourselves as source, right? To know yourself as connected to everything, beyond this trying to win in this illusion and win in the game of chess.
Yes.
Our secondary purpose is then to do something with it.
Yeah.
So life is always trying to deliver yourself so you know yourself as connected to everyone and everything. So if you go down a path that you're winning, but you don't, you're actually not connected, or you're
winning at a cost. Would you say winning at a cost? Like there was this cost that.
This is exactly what I say all the time. I say to people, all right, we're going to work together. We're going to shift from win at all costs mentality to win on all levels understanding.
Yeah, I love that.
Or essence or spirit or whatever it is, because it's not a mentality.
Yeah.
Right? It's not in the mind. It's actually, right, I'm connected to everything. So if I'm not looking after him, then I'm not looking after me.
Yes.
Exactly, right? And I'm not talking about dumping everything and let's all become socialists. I'm not talking about that at all. That's I believe that's another trap in itself. But I'm talking about being real and honest and in the moment at answering these calls. So a great teacher of mine used to always say, you're going to get it if you're not on purpose. If you are on purpose, a silver lining is going to come in, and everything will fly your way, because that's the universe saying you're on purpose. Let me give you everything I've got to help you keep, because you're doing my work too.
In flow,
in flow, right? And he used to say, if you're not, you're going to get a tap first. Then you're going to get a whack. If you ignore the tap, you'll get a whack. If you ignore the whack, then a Mack truck will hit you. So the breakdown or the GFC or the whatever, it'll either hit you in your backyard as you reverse out and the car hits you, or health crisis with someone really close to you or yourself. If you're really good at actually keeping things away from yourself, that doesn't mean you're connected.
No.
Sometimes your family will get sick, and this just sounds really bizarre. It's like it's often connected. It's like, I haven't solved everything. The negatives coming through them. The black sheep runs away and feels disconnected in the family and gets on drugs, or something happens. It's like at another level, when you're ready, you go, I'm connected to this because we're all valuing this winning, this getting the resources and family. Or, well, he made it, why didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, no. Did he make it? No. Well, not really on know yourself as source. No, he didn't. So it kind of like, there's a story I want to share that it just kind of slows me down when I think of it. But the marriage was broken up, but we'd fought with each other for so long, deep love between Jackie and I, but we'd fought with each other for so long and so got so lost, and she had enough of me, and I'd had enough of her. We had enough of each other's reactions.
Yeah.
So the way she reacted and the way I lack of reaction and just disappeared and, made myself look good,
Yeah.
And
you were getting your needs met elsewhere through winning, through whatever it was.
All the sugar of life.
Yes.
Take the sugar.
Yeah.
If it was a fire,
too
I
hard
was putting
here,
the sticks
it's
on
easy there.
just one after another, and they were looking great, and there were sparks everywhere. But Jackie was saying, the logs are missing, and so I was so in the winning thing, and it was paying off at the sugar level. It was giving me such of a feed that. Don't worry about the relationship. I couldn't feel what I was doing to Jackie that I was also doing to myself.
Yeah.
And we'd broken up, but TJ was born through that process. And as he was born, and I held him, I was right there, and we reconciled some things really strongly through that period, and said, let's just look after each other. Start simple.
Yeah.
And I held TJ as he was born, and I looked at him. And his big brown eyes looked back at me. And it was this moment where I was just starting the journey. I was on the journey, and I was looking, and I was aware that it was my own stuff. And what looked back at me was purity, unconditioned purity, but also this deep sense of, hey mate, I chose you.
Yeah.
And you chose me, and I was turning up now. No more mucking around. And it was like I'm not the man that I want to be for the son I always wanted to have.
Yeah.
And I start off with the beautiful Christelle 7 years before, and we were 19. So it's hard to know what to do. It's a very young start. And Tej, now I'm a bit older. And he's born. It's like, I'm not the man I'm meant to be the father I need to be for this son that's just born, and literally slapped me in the face like you wouldn't believe. So there's another thing that Eckhart Tolle says, the inner readiness, and you won't actually change until you're ready, and you won't go to the next, because we've all got levels of awareness, but you won't, and there's physical awareness, there's nutritional awareness, there's financial awareness, there's intellectual, educational awareness, lots of different awareness. But self-awareness, like, leads you through certain processes of emotional intelligence and all that sort of stuff. But you won't go to the next level till you have an inner readiness. And in later life, I've proactively probably gone towards it, going, that doesn't feel right. So I'm not interested in moving any further till I straighten that out. So I do that more now. I feel it in myself. But previously something would have to fall apart, because I'm like, I'm winning,
Go that way.
Or something would have to hit me so deep. And when TJ looked back in my eyes, it hit me so deep. It was, you're not the man you need to be. You're not the human being you need to be.
Human being, at the end of the day, it's an experience that everyone has. I would expect over life, most of us have those moments in life, right?
And that propelled me. That was like, sort out the rest, mate. And it's taken a long time, but
Well, and I'm assuming right now your work now is working with people to have those moments before it's imploding or exploding, right? So that's kind of a passion, and it's something similar to us in the world of finance. It's like people pay attention to their money when it's all gone, it's blown up, and so it's like, well, maybe I should,
pay attention to their relationship after she's left.
Exactly. And maybe just quickly touching on those things, because I was listening to one of your podcasts, you brought up stigma.
Yes.
It's a really interesting thing. What shouldn't you talk about? Money, sex, religion, politics, these things, and they're pretty important things all around, really, let's face it.
And our connection to them is really profound.
Yes.
They form part of our conditioning. So if we don't talk about them, we probably will never be free.
Yeah.
Because we can't actually freely explore, why did I end up thinking that?
Yeah.
And release myself from it.
And there's these unwritten ground rules about them that no one wants to talk about, but everyone's kind of skirting around the edges of, right?
Oh, and it's so good to talk about. Maybe
Absolutely.
We'll get onto a couple of taboo subjects. But yes.
Yeah. And so one of the things, in our world, my world, when it comes to wealth and money, there is a bit of stigma around that, and certainly for me, come the GFC, many millions of dollars, in the hole, and the stigma literally hung around as almost like this darkness for almost a decade, maybe 7-8 years, and I heard you talking about the stigma of somebody asked you about bankruptcy for you, and it's like, well, no, I've released that part, So maybe talk a little bit about that, because a lot of my listeners are bring some, let's call it, dysfunctional energy and emotion to money and finance.
Yes.
And probably, for me, when I'm out in the wilderness climbing, I love rock climbing. So, out there, it's irrelevant. None of it matters, So, maybe just to share a little bit of wisdom in that sort of space. How did you freely release that bit of stigma? And do you see that right now where, young peak performance people, doesn't have to be young, but anyone in that peak performance world, is there still stigmas that you've got to sort of push through and get on the table to discuss?
Totally. I'm president of Surf Club, the club that I grew up in. Into my 5th year, and such an incredible challenge, because people there have known you since you were 8 or 9 years old, and they're like, get back in your box, would you? You're not going to come and tell us how to shift the culture, if it involves me actually being a little bit more,
aware,
forgiving or aware or whatever. It's beautiful people, and we're all on a journey. And but when people haven't asked to be personally developed, they haven't come to you and said, hey, can you help?
Right.
Then it's a tricky one, but it teaches you patience and humility, and shows you your own bullshit. It reflects back, what haven't I cleared yet? So just, it ties in, but I came to that, and there was all these problems, and it occurred to me that a problem often has a solution on a short-term level, a medium-term level, and a long-term level. So we don't have enough patrol members, to patrol the beach, and we're all going to leave because we're there with 2 and blah, blah. And it's like, okay. And if you don't change this, so the mind wants you to jump into one of those levels without acknowledging the other. And I realized that, oh my goodness, okay, guys, all right, our short-term solution is straight away we're going to ring around and get people more engaged, and we're going to help people and get more people that aren't patrolling at the moment to come along and rove and We're going to get upskill some people's awards. That's our short-term solution. Our medium-term solution is more upskilling of awards, some real incentives to come along to patrols, blah, blah, blah. Our long-term solution, we've got a whole recruiting program. As soon as I laid it all out, the person that was ready to attack me on one of those things was like, oh, I'm going to have to find something else to attack him on now, right? Because when you've addressed something on all levels, the opposition, the resistance drops away. But if you address it on one level, they get you on that level, and you address it on that level, they get you on that level. And so it's the same thing for me with finance, is that I'm really good at creating financial flow. I don't even try, because I've shifted my values around finance. They're not really financial values. I've got the same values that I mentioned before: truth, awareness. You throw in vulnerability, purpose, clarity, being real, nature, connection. My values for those. So I go towards those things, and I find myself all of a sudden I'm highly sought after or required to talk about this or that, and I'm like, oh, I've got more money in the bank than...
It's a consequence of those things.
It's a consequence of living my best life, and living something that's true and of real value to people, but it's particularly of real value to the people that connect with what I'm doing, because I'm just being true to myself, right? So all of a sudden I'm being true to myself, and short-term, medium-term, long-term begins to straighten itself out, which is really, really interesting. But the long-term thing, and I'll touch on taboo and bankruptcy and this whole thing as well, when we've started to straighten out and get the purpose right in the surf club, well, what are we really here to do? Just patrol the beaches? Don't we raise great Australians as well, and great humans and great nippers? And so why don't we we've got great values, why don't we take our great people that are shining and take them to schools and teach values and everything? So shifting win at all costs to win on all levels, and my bird's weighing in on this one. shifting from the head to the heart,
Yeah.
from ambition to purpose.
Yes.
It's all the same shift, right?
Yes.
So my ambition is to be, financially successful, and so then I can actually connect with my family and live the life I truly want.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But what I find is that's like a boat that you're rowing along. When you find your purpose, it's like putting an outboard motor on the back of it, and it actually propels it down the line. Keeps you afloat. It's always going to keep you afloat, and you're going to go in the right direction.
Yeah.
But there's quite a lot of work. But you put a motor on the back and you just steer the thing.
Going. Yeah.
And so we did that at the surf club, and we've gone through rapid changes. And someone said to me this morning, I've been in 12 different clubs as a trainer and helper. And she said, this is in the waves this morning. She goes, I just need to tell you, you are so on track and the club's so on track. It's such a friendly club. And I'm like, wow, that's a difference to what happened 5 years ago.
Yeah.
When we're competing and everyone had an opinion. She goes, oh no. And she's now entrenched in the club. She's joined us, training for us and everything. I'm like, the other type of person that I would have paid money to get, which we don't do. But she's come to us and brought beautiful things to us, So
people seeking a tribe, similar values, similar purpose.
And then that tribe, I love a saying that popped in my own head one day was, we travel a lot further over common ground. So, let's identify what the common ground is. So how do we identify the common ground? Well, if we talk about our ambitions and our values and everything else, we're going to open up a fair amount of commonality. But if we talk about our pains and our hurts and our deep feelings and our losses and the love that we haven't yet conquered, but we are beginning to conquer and the things like that, all of a sudden the common ground is far greater. And you go, you have different skin color, gender, sexuality, everything else.
Who cares?
And I friggin' love you, and I just met you, because is it me I'm looking at, And the pains and the love are the same in each person we meet, So we're mirrors for each other.
Yeah.
So it travels so far. So I went bankrupt in the year 2000. Year 1994, I shifted from Ironman to kayaking to go the bigger picture,
the
right?
Olympics,
Because I've won everything I want to in Ironman, broke the records. And now I'll switch to kayaking and I'll go to the Olympics because that's the bigger picture. And I went to the World Championships in '98 with Australian team, and amazing people, loved working with them. And them and me together with them and together against everyone else, we bumped into so much stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff in the sport, the stuff in the world sport, the stuff in the movement, everything else. And I actually, I thought it was a bigger picture, and I'd retired from sport, and I come back from that, and I literally had this realization that as a girl that I was working with and helping out, she paddled past me. I'm like, hey, Robin, oh, hey, Trev. And she paddled the other way, and I'm now in training because I'm in the Australian team. I'm 2 years short of the Olympics in Sydney, Australia. Biggest picture, best thing you could ever experience.
Going for it.
Makes complete sense, right?
Yeah.
And I'm paddling along, and I'm so excited to see her. And then as she paddles away, I go, so back to training for the dream, And then my mate who I was working with, Dave, paddles past.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, Dave. He's like, hey, Trev, like this. I'm like, hey, mate, oh, good to see you. And he paddles, it's good to see Dave. He looks good. And I'm paddling along. Yeah, just fully buoyant, And then
down.
Training for the Olympics, living the dream, And I paddled around 40-minute, just a recovery paddle. And I sat on this riverbank, and I just sat there for ages. And then after about 10 minutes, I just started crying. And I went, I'm not living the dream. I'm actually living the program. I'm living the programming.
Yeah.
I'm living the next best thing to do,
next
to
logical
be the man,
thing
to
for
win,
Trevor to be the winner.
To be a winner, to win on the higher stage and to really prove myself. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm done with sport. I'm done with racing in sport to win in that way.
Yeah.
Just cried and cried and cried. And I sat there for like an hour. Came home, saw Joe, walked in the door, and I said, said, honey, I need to talk to you. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, actually, my friend Mark, who'd done the same thing, I told him first and burst into tears. He goes, I still love you, mate. And then I told Joe, so friend first, then I told Joe, and then burst into tears again. And she's like, I'll still love you, And I'm like, wow. And then I actually I rang my mum and said, are you and my dad home? I need to come and see you. And they're like, well, yeah, is everything okay? Because they could hear someone. I'm like, yeah, it's all good. Came around and sat down and said, I just need to tell you something. I think I'm done with sport. And burst into tears again.
And did you feel like you're letting everyone down, or?
This is the thing, was if I go back to the original story, I wanted my mates to like me. I wanted to get the girl, and I wanted my family to see me as equal to them.
Yeah.
And so those three things, I just didn't think, it was all tied to, if I win, they'll love me. You know, so it was quite crazy
go.
as I released that thing. I felt so free and so alive.
So alive.
When I switched in 94 to that period in 98, I did that for 4 years. And as I said, went to World Cups and World Championships, got to the higher level, you know. And I changed everything up. So all the sponsors were disappearing and everything because we don't get to see you on TV, you know, 7 times a year on Sundays and, you know, prime time, blah, blah. And they were drying up. It's all right, I'm fighting the fight, it'll all be worth it, you know. I retired from the whole lot, did a press conference, and I just said to people, I said at the press conference, you know, I've had enough of chasing my own gold medal. I just feel I'd rather help other people chase theirs, whatever that is. Right? So that's in 1998. Over the next 2 years, as it was like I climbed that ladder, and I use this analogy quite a bit. It's like I climbed this ladder, and I'm up in front of the ladder, and I'm paving up, and as I get through the clouds, and I poke my head through the top of the clouds of this ladder, I noticed 2 things. First thing was that the ladder I was on didn't go any further than just above the clouds, like this. And the second thing I noticed symbolically was it was like I looked across the clouds and there was another ladder over there going up through, these people climbing up, and I'm like, I'm on the wrong ladder. And the humble, simple, connected, present people were on this other ladder. They weren't looking like winners at all. They might be, but that wasn't any part of their values. They were just being true to themselves. So I'm rapidly climbing down the ladder, and as I'm climbing down, I'm climbing over my mates who are following me going, I thought we said we were going this way. And I'm like, no, it's not up there. What are you doing, Trevor? They go, what did you see? And I'm going, we're on the wrong ladder, you know. And of course, well, I need to see it for myself. Well, you keep going and we'll uncomfortably climb past each other as you think I've lost the plot. You know, my friends are like, oh, I think he's become a born again Christian or something, you know, because I've got no religious connection at all, you know, but that's the only thing they could relate to.
But that's the context, right, for them.
You know, it's becoming more Christ-like or something, I don't know, but, you know, loving thy neighbour. And so that was the only thing they could relate to it. So they're climbing past, and all they knew was that I wasn't at the bar anymore and I wasn't having a beer after a race, you know, and I wasn't laughing at the same jokes, you know, when they'd laugh at somebody or, you know, and how great they were or whatever, I'd be like, oh, yeah, no, I wasn't laughing. And I'd just go and talk to people that wanted to talk about life, you know. So things were changing. Climbed off that thing, still had so much ego. It wasn't like I'm still on the ladder, just trying to get off it. And then ate humble pie while I walked over and started on the bottom rung, right? And it's so strange to say, but I was just eating humble pie. That's all it really is. And going. So in the year 2000, I went... couldn't keep up. I couldn't get away from the financial difficulties that had grown from earning big money between probably 90 to 96, earning big money, and then creatively accounting. You know, tax schemes and, you know,
all the rage
tax minimisation, investing in cherry orchards and films and, you know, and this and that and everything else. And of course what you do is you take the money you save and you invest in other things, blah, blah, blah. Well, hadn't done that well either. And so next minute, I think Johnny Howard retrospectively legislated to try and get Kerry Packer, I think, if the story was right, something like that, you know, and took a few of these things out. And I'd gone from Ironman to kayaking to nothing, and now I'm just loving working with people. Hey mate, you know, just talking to people and think, oh, I'll take you for a run, or let's sit and have a chat. And I'm doing the simplest thing, getting paid by the hour and loving it, feeling so free and going, oh my God, though, I've got this massive new bill with the tax office and a few credit cards and everything else. And so in the end, you know, it didn't have bills with anybody else or companies or anything else, maybe my accountant, you know, and sorted through that and couldn't get away from it and I had to end up declaring bankrupt. You know, and then went on your 50% income and all that sort of stuff. And so I'm earning this slight little money and it's over a threshold, and it was humble pie big time. But the reason I tell the story was because I went, you know what? I know that's going to come through court records and people are going to go, oh, Trevor Hendy's gone bankrupt. And at that stage, a lot of people knew who I was and everything else. And
there's still a bit of ego there?
No, not really. It was more like, you know what? I'm just going to get on the front foot because actually this has been an amazing lesson. So I put out a little press release via my manager and just said, hey, Trevor's gone bankrupt and learned some amazing lessons, and he'd love to share the story rather than being put in his face. And I actually ended up on John Laws, and I ended up with Kenny Sutcliffe and a few different people, and had these amazingly honest conversations, and particularly on John Laws, in his studio and everything, just talked about it. And I was just so honest. I was like, no, I didn't actually. I was so full of myself and everything else.
Yeah.
And my accountant decided this, and this, so I could blame the accountant now if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't take responsibility.
You shone the light on it.
Yeah, shone the light on it. Took the taboo out of it.
Yeah.
And went, hey, I made mistakes. You know what? I've built myself up as the guy next door. Blah 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 blah. I got this great reputation, but actually, I've made major mistakes. Yeah. And my marriage was broken up. I'm in a great relationship now, but I've actually lost all my money, and I continue to learn. And I probably told it more because I feel we travel a lot further over common ground comes from being vulnerable. Vulnerable, yeah. And what does being real.
Brené Brown says, shame hides in the dark places or in the shadows,
Absolutely.
And, being vulnerable about, talking about those things.
Played that clip for a group we were working with the other day, and vulnerability, for anyone who hasn't seen it, right? With Brené Brown, most watched TED Talk maybe of all time, I think.
Yeah, it's right up there.
And one of the other things she says, courage comes from the Latin, cura comes from... open-hearted or something like that, wholehearted, heart. So courage is actually basically is defined as living with your whole heart. So courage, to be vulnerable, is showing people your heart.
Yeah.
So it's been a crazy journey since all of that.
Yeah.
But it's just tell the truth every step of the way.
And use it. Use those lessons that you've learned if that's part of your calling or your passion to help others, right? Yep.
Next minute I'm up there telling the truth on stage more. I went away from all the speaking and all the corporate stuff in sport while I was being a spiritual guy.
Yeah.
And then actually got pushed back, directed back so intuitively. You've got to go back. And next minute I'm working with footy clubs and sporting clubs and tennis players and surfers and, and I'm back in corporate stuff and everything else. And I'm doing all these things, and it was just literally like I'm standing up and telling the truth.
And probably, to be honest, Trevor the winner, and that's all that happened ever would have been probably, let's face it, maybe a boring story eventually. But
a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah,
make it really fun.
Well,
And the day I met Madonna and I was on Baywatch, and it's fun.
But that colour of life, to be able to share that and experience that,
But those other stories are great for sportsmen's luncheons on a Friday when everyone's having drinks and everything else.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I tell one of those stories and then say, "Come on, guys, let's have a real conversation." But the real stuff is what people need to hear, because the rest, we're all going to. If I tell those stories, I'm basically saying that ladder I climbed was real. But what I often do is I tell the story. And I go, by the way, guys, it's actually the wrong path.
It's the wrong one.
And I'll tell you now, I'll show you what really happened. I'll talk to you about what really went on. And just really, really quickly, I think this whole connected with what's real, connected with, where you end up in life, what you're supposed to be talking about, what your purpose is, all that sort of stuff, is that it kind of leads you around full circle.
Yeah.
And what you didn't get at the start, you come all the way back around, and the life leads you back to close the loop on what you didn't deal with. And so
keep sending you the lessons.
Yeah, keep sending you lessons. Tap, whack, Mack truck. I've learned to listen to the tap.
Yeah.
Because I'm not clear enough to actually go, I'm on track all the time. I'm just like, and you know what? It's like I'm generally on track, but what happens is I'm going along and I bump into another feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't feel right.
Might
What's
have to
going
just
on there?
peel that one open.
Peel that open. What's going on?
Yeah.
If I followed that feeling, how would I act?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wanting to win again.
Yeah.
It's been a great teacher. Needing to win's been an amazing teacher, because you'd think, you want to clear that and get rid of it. No, it's like the ego has been the reflector and the shadow, and it just keeps popping up in my face.
Yep.
And I keep clearing it at different levels, and every time I clear it, I have more impact on people.
Yes.
I feel more connected, more simple myself. And then I go, I'm finally through it. Which is only the ego wants to finally be through the ego, right? But ultimately you get past it all, beyond it all, and it's just the feeling of I'm here right now in this moment, and I can have or not have things, be or not be with people, do or not do things.
Yeah.
when I'm in those moments, and everything, it's like there is nothing. It's like a nothingness. Everything's beautiful and perfect exactly the way it is.
It's meant to be because that's what happened.
And then I'm not a teacher at all.
Yeah.
I'm just a bloke walking along, realizing some freedom, going, oh, I feel free again.
Yes.
You know, just shut up, feel the freedom. You know, and that. But it's everything keeps coming back to that happening more often and more profoundly.
Getting in that flow.
Yeah.
And you know, the podcast is called The Wealth Faculty, and you know, we've got a spin on two parts of the faculty, which is your physical, personal faculties. You bring, you know, your health, your mind, your spirit. And we've talked about that today. But what do you do now? You're still training. You know, you said you just got back into training. That's the majority of your, you know, staying fit yourself these days. Like not for competition, just for connection and.
Yeah. I think the way I refer to body, mind, and soul is just something I've been saying for a couple of years. Is that third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension. Third dimensional physical self, fourth dimensional, a bit beyond that, where mind is playing a role, where we can be a conscious co-creator of our experience. Yeah. But usually we're a co-creator, not a conscious one.
Yes.
And then fifth dimension, where we're just spirit pure, you know, beyond right and wrong, good and bad, out of this whole construct, you know. So what's crazy is that everything I do these days is actually feeding that realization on multiple levels. So the niche I'm probably in is the niche of awakening, you know. And so what's happening is I keep getting drawn back to whatever I haven't completed. And the body's a really interesting one because when you're really, really clear, the energy flushes right through the mind and through that whole thing and flushes through the body as well. Yeah. And then you see blocks and traps and things, this aging thing, you know, where you go aging looking from the other side. Aging looking from a place where you feel your spirit feels a bit immortal, you know, and you come back and look at aging from there rather than under it and your personality going, God, I don't want, geez, I'm getting wrinkles, or geez, I tuck this in there. It's like looking at it from the other side and going, oh, that's not meant to be. We're not meant to age this fast, you know. And so I keep getting woken up to do more different physical exercises. As I said, I trained for the Coolie Gold. Well, I restored a large amount of what my health, my physical well-being was in 11 weeks. Yeah. Because I don't drink. I've never smoked. I've never been a drug person. Yeah. Like, don't go anywhere near it. I don't have processed sugar, have a bit of dark chocolate, don't have dairy, don't have wheat. Yeah. You know, largely paleo, keto, occasionally raw. You know, I fast in the morning. So all the things that I've learnt, they're all pretty fantastic. You connect them all together, you know. Yeah. And so there's not a lot of toxins building up. Yeah. I'm taking responsibility as quick as I can all the time for my own bullshit. And so emotionally, I'm relatively clear. Mentally, I'm relatively clear. Yeah. Not carrying baggage around. I don't like the feeling of baggage. It's like, it feels like carrying around a backpack on you know, with weights in it. Yeah. So as soon as there's an outness with someone, I sort it out in myself, and then it either sorts out or I go and see the person.
If you see it or you feel it, get onto it.
Because it doesn't feel like what I feel like when I feel free.
And like you said, it's like a backpack. You're carrying the stuff around. You know, you've got stuff in there weighing you down.
So ultimately, I'm like, okay, there's no reason to age other than you haven't looked after your body to move it, change it. So movement, I end up doing the Coolie Gold run through. We did a bit shorter, and basically taking into time difference. I basically did 5 minutes faster than when I got on the pole. I only did it properly once in my career because it wasn't on much. Yep. And it's one of our big 4 things to win. So I never won that. That's the one I didn't win.
Is it still on the to-do list? No.
Just
to run
training for it to be able to do it and enjoy it. Yes. Was what I was doing. I wasn't going to race it. I just wanted to actually be able to conquer the thing of, I don't want to be scared of this course, you know. I want to be able to fly through it and enjoy and be in flow, which Ali Day does amazingly. Yeah. And so I did it with Al and everyone. I did it 5 minutes faster than an equivalent than I'd done it when I was 20, 21 and got 3rd place. Wow. You know. So that's great, right? That's really cool. And it was awesome because my approach to it was different. But Qigong, yoga, ocean swimming. I've learned how to foil, which is riding the surfboard up on the mast with the foil underneath.
Oh, yeah.
Fell in love with that August last year. So I'm 15 months into that. And that's the same transition from mental success to spiritual success is the same transition from surfing to foiling. Because you come up off the water all of a sudden and everything is energy and movement that you can't see. And your flows that you can't even see. They're not even, and you just like go over and join that flow, and you start off with a little lift and ride it around, and you connect one lift to another, and it's like kinetic, perpetual motion, you know, with a little bit of movement facing the right direction.
Yeah.
So it was like being a grommet and a kid again. So the last 12 months, I've restored my health in that way. I've done the Qigongs and the yogas for a long time, but I started falling again.
Yeah.
And it's really, really interesting because it's earthed me back to the simple things I love.
You say that. Do you think it's gone that full circle back?
My father, and I was going to say this before and I forgot about it, and Marcus had mentioned this to me, that I travelled around Australia from 3 to 5 with a caravan in the back of the truck, right? And my sister, and 5 years older, and we would pull up in the middle of the Northern Territory, for example, middle of nowhere. Dad would find a track off to the side, pull over. Mum would get out and start cooking seriously some rabbit or some chicken or fish that we'd caught in a creek or something, you know.
Nice.
And she'd be in the caravan cooking that, and Dad would walk us off, and he'd change direction all the time. I'm like 3, 4, 5 years of age, and he'd change direction all around, and then 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes into a walk, he'd say, okay, Trevor and I, point to which way's home. Show me which way's home. And home was the caravan, you know, home was where the heart is. Well, we were just on the road. It was such a beautiful experience that sits so deeply unspoken inside of me.
Yeah.
And so there's home, Mum's there cooking, you know, and to his surprise, after the first time, you're going, whoa, what? I always knew where home was. So he taught me from a young age to know where home was.
Yeah,
no matter how many turns you take, what path you go down, don't lose touch of where home is. So go down the path and live it fully, but know which way is which. So it always surprises me. I can be in the middle, I can be in Ezra, like Uluru. I can be somewhere just walking along and someone will go, you know, which way's east? And I go, oh, the water's over there. Yeah, there's east, there's north, like without looking at the sun, because I learnt where home was, and the home for me is water and family, you know. But that thing stuck in me because everywhere we went around the world, I always knew where home was. And in the end, home is not a place. Yeah. It's a place inside of you, you know, and it's connected to the things that are much deeper than the things that come and go. Our house is going to come and go. Our bank balance is going to go up and down. Our cars, my dream car, how many of my dream cars have I had? They come and they go, you know. Your family don't come and go. Even if you don't want to speak to them anymore, they're still there. They're still there, But deeper than that, the way you connect to country, connect to this land, connect to this earth. Connect to what drives you before you learnt what was good and bad, right and wrong, what winning and losing was, success and failure, hot and cold, rich and poor, fat and skinny, dumb and smart. You know, all this is all bullshit. It's all dual. It's all great, wonderful place to learn. It's like playing a board game. But it's all a big boot camp for our soul. It's.
Would you say it's kind of like unlearning that stuff?
So you're more than that.
Yeah, you're learning and then you're unlearning and you're more than that.
It teaches you. It's so incredible. And you can have it. It's not even, there's nothing wrong with it. When I say it's all bullshit, it's bullshit to get stuck in it.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's the most wonderful thing to play with. It's a playground. If you're going to learn how to climb as a kid, you go into a playground. If you're going to learn, it's all a playground. But playground for life. It's there to teach you stuff. It's not there to become your God.
Yes.
You know, and there's not even a God that's there to become your God, you know, really, in essence of what I've understood. And when you connect with someone like an Eckhart Tolle, it's like, oh, we are, you know, this conversation is better than winning something.
Yeah. And speaking of Eckhart Tolle, would you, part of the other faculty conversation is about the faculty you rely on for your guidance and who do you go to. So, you know, you've mentioned Eckhart a few times. Is there other people in your world that you, when you're needing maybe a second set of eyes or whatever, who are your faculty members now?
Yeah.
You know?
So isn't it faculty an awesome word? Because there's an inner and an outer.
Yes.
So the outer, your faculty, the people you connect with that bring you back to spirit, bring you back to your true essence of whatever you want to achieve. The inner faculty is the part that recognises them and knows the truth of what they say and do and go, oh, I'm meant to be with him or her. I'm going
to write that one down, Trevor. I've got to have that one.
You know, so they're our faculties on the inside. They're our deeper traits. You know. So 100% Eckhart Tolle. I have some beautiful friends, you know, Kane Johnson, who was twice Richmond captain, twice Adelaide Premiership player, but Richmond captain. we work really closely together. Keith Maitland, who was my chiropractor, kinesiologist, has set me on the path. We laugh all the time at our own crap. We walk on the beach and swim and having a wonderful time, He's 10 years older than me, faculty. My buddy Brett Richardson, who's a healer, clairvoyant. We've been trying to put together for a long time a podcast, Brett and Trev's Excellent Adventure.
And eventually, rolls off the tongue well.
Eventually it's become, we haven't actually done our first official episode. We've done a couple of practices, but it's become, it's called Wake the Flock Up.
I like that.
Wake the faculty up, wake each other up, but wake the flock up, because, there's so much garbage going on. The left and the right in the US is nuts right now. It governs so much of our energy. Our media is very dishonest the way they report about it. The media around the world is very dishonest.
I reckon we could do another 2 hours on that one.
Both sides have major faults, but the truth's not being told about who's on track and who's not, and there's a lot of crap, So if you don't have your inner faculty connected, you start connecting with these other things outside. That outer faculty, those people, we laugh about all that sort of stuff and talk about it, but we bring each other back to our own truths, And there's a bunch of other people, my own family, my coach at the Surf Club, Zane, we can talk about anything. There's so many people I'm missing. A buddy of mine, Carl Muggeridge, he was the Supersport world champion superbike racer.
I know Carl.
Yeah, you know Carl.
There you go. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, Muggeridge. So we have these crazy conversations. I think I've come into his life and sped up his journey. That he's very in touch with all that. He's like, truth and everything else. Yes. And we foil together and ride. My own kids, I can talk to my 17-year-old daughter, which is my youngest of 4, about anything. But so can I with the other 3. It's, that we can have any conversation, but people come to our dinner table and go, oh my God, how refreshing.
Yes.
And how many swear words we, at certain moments and everything else, because it's true and it's real and it's honest.
Yeah.
And the one that, Jackie, my ex-partner, we can talk about anything,
Yeah.
But my confidant and right-hand woman and right-hand, my best mate is Jo, my wife. And we can laugh about anything, talk about anything. We can have or not have each other. Yeah. I've always felt very attracted and very like, I don't want to leave you, and then we've just broken that down as well to just be like, oh, it's not you complete me. Yeah. You remind me to complete myself. Yeah. You reflect me, So I've almost achieved in my own way what I thought I saw in my mum and dad and my sister and the family unit all these years later. Yeah. It's like, oh, my family's honest and real, and we don't think we're anywhere wonderful, but we are aware that we are quite capable, and we made a decision a few years back that our family mission was to travel the world as a family, helping people.
Nice.
And later on you go, well, helping people is a bit funny too, because you're assuming people need help, but travel the world as a family, being present and available, and if people get something out of that, then
happy
fantastic.
To help if you need it. No, I love that, mate. And it reminds me a little bit of a guy called Gary Vee. I don't know if you've followed him, but he talks about clouds and dirt.
I don't, but yeah.
Sometimes you're working in the clouds, and sometimes you need to work in the dirt. You need to be in the realness of everything, and it's a good one. So
what's that? Before enlightenment, carry waters. What is it? Chop wood, carry water.
Carry water, yeah.
After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Yeah. Or the other one, like while you pray, you need to move your feet.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that.
And you can't just sit there and it's got to come to you. You've got to keep moving.
Well, the biggest thing I feel connected to now is that the earth is going through a shift. Not just the earth, underneath our feet.
Yeah.
But the consciousness that occupies this earth, both the consciousness, the broader consciousness, and all of us, souls on here that are in an embodiment, that we are collectively going somewhere. Yeah. And that's what really drives me these days. It's really the idea that awakening because something's telling me, just speak some truth about what's going on, so that people go, oh yeah, right. So because there's so many distortions and diversions and distractions, which feed the thing that's been here forever. I mentioned before Nikola Tesla saying, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency and vibration. Yes. Put that together with Einstein, who was asked what's it like being the smartest man on the earth, and he said, I don't know, ask Nikola Tesla. But put that together with Einstein, who said you cannot solve a problem on the same level of mind that it was created. Freud said something different, and so it's similar. And Einstein also said a system cannot be fixed on the same level of mind that the system was created, or whatever. A lot of different things he said, same.
Yeah.
But we have a problem on the planet, and the problem is our thinking, and we see each other as separate, and we're in a competitive mindset, and the resources are limited, and we've got to get our part and build our investment portfolio and everything else. And that thinking is contributing to the haves and the not haves and everything else. So then we go, well, that's terrible. Let's become leftists and socialists and
swing one way
share
or the
all
other
with the government, you know. And let the government, they seem to be good. No, that is another polarization, and that's a gigantic trap, probably worse than the capitalist trap. Because you don't even have your own sovereignty in that one. So, you know, that's lower on the thing, I would think, at this point in time I'm thinking. But what are they saying? We're all connected. What are they saying? We have the power to actually make a difference. You know, put those together, and we're going through something that is an awakening, that we realise we're all connected. But the responsibility is ours. The government aren't going to fix it. You know, connect, collaborate, know who you really are. You know, get out of competition and comparison and get in connection and collaboration.
Take care of your own front or backyard first, and you know, if everyone did that, we'd get a long way.
I've got your back, brother. You know, sister. I care about you. Like, I'm going to shut up and listen to you. And you know, which I talk a lot, but
I love it, mate.
In this environment. But hopefully, I do more listening in other environments.
No, it's been an amazing conversation, mate. I really appreciate you giving us some of your time. And I've got one last question for you, which I ask all my guests. What is the true meaning of wealth to you?
So wealth on all levels. So the true meaning of wealth is to be present and alive and connected with all things. And even though I'm so purely not religious, I often go back to religious sayings, and some of them I mess up. But there's a saying about, because I'm really interested in the Christ consciousness, you know, the whole journey that he walked in, the truth of that journey, what he was actually saying before it was altered. And he said, heaven's not to be found out there, it's inside of every turn over under each stone, all that sort of stuff, you know. But he also said, forgive them, they know not what they do. I love that one. And I love that he also said, know ye the truth, and the truth shall set ye free. Originally, it was actually, before it was altered, it was know ye the truth, and the truth shall make ye free. And pause on that and think about it for a while. But he also said that he was offered, you know, the kingdom. And he said, why would I want that when I'm connected with the kingdom of heaven, or whatever it was? And if you take that all the religious context and the way I've experienced it, is that when you are purely, truly present, you have everything. You are everything. You're connected with everything, and you just shut up. You know, and I'm not there right now, but I can feel it. But you just embody freedom and presence. And so I love freedom, and I love love. And I think love comes from freedom. Freedom doesn't come from love. You know, I think when you're truly free, love is automatically a part of it. And I'm still learning that, because occasionally I grab onto the love, and if we grab onto love, you lose the freedom. Because
you think you're going to lose it.
Yeah. So wealth is actually being present in this moment, and not in this, and here, and knowing what it feels like to be yourself.
Trevor, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks, Jace. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for joining us on The Wealth Faculty. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe. Where all good podcasts are found, you can find us there. And if you want to watch it, you can subscribe on YouTube, Positive Mentor TV. And until the next episode, take care. Bye for now.